There comes a time when you must look not at the world, but into it, into the shadows where comfort resides, where laughter is easy and touch is familiar, for it is often in those very places, where you should feel safest, that the greatest betrayals begin. The wolves don't always come dressed in enemy's armor. Sometimes they hold your hand at dinner. Sometimes they helped raise you. People speak of demons as if they dwell in hellish caverns beneath the earth. No, my friend, some demons sit at your table. Some tuck you in at night. They wear familiar faces. They share your blood. They call you family or friend, with a warmth that sends your guard to sleep, until they strike. We grow up being told to love unconditionally, to forgive, to overlook the cracks in the mirror. But when those cracks bleed poison into your soul, when every conversation turns into manipulation, and every hug hides a dagger, you begin to learn a cruel truth. Not all love is love. Some of it is control dressed in affection. Some of it is resentment dressed in tradition. I have seen people waste decades clinging to bloodlines that corroded their spirit. They stayed for birthdays, for Christmases, for guilt. They smiled in family photos while breaking inside. And I ask, what is family, if not the ones who nourish you? What is friendship, if not sanctuary? You are not obligated to die by loyalty's hand. Demons in friends are more cunning still. They hide behind laughter, behind shared secrets and drunken nights. But listen closely. Do they cheer when you rise, or do they quietly hope you fall? There are people who celebrate your setbacks because it makes them feel less alone in their mediocrity. Beware of the friend who grows silent when you succeed, and perhaps the most dangerous are those who pretend to help you heal, only so they can reopen your wounds at the next convenience. They remember your traumas not out of compassion, but to control you with them. These are not companions. They are collectors of your pain, waiting to use it against you. There is a kind of betrayal that doesn't shout. It whispers, it smiles, it walks beside you for years. You'll feel it first in your chest, in the slow suffocation of being constantly misunderstood, constantly guilt-tripped, endlessly drained. You'll feel it in the way your light dims after every visit, every phone call, every reunion. We fear being alone so much. We keep toxic people close just to fill the silence. But I tell you, peace is not found in the company of everyone. It's found in the absence of those who wear masks made of love, stitched with envy and bitterness. You must learn to see people not for who they pretend to be, but for how they make you feel. If their presence exhausts you, if their words bruise more than they build, then it is not weakness to walk away. It is wisdom. Let them call you cold. Let them accuse you of abandoning the tribe. You are not here to be their emotional punching bag. Protecting your peace is not a betrayal. It's a declaration that your spirit matters, that your healing matters, that you will not be shackled to legacy, guilt, or tradition at the expense of your sanity. Some of you have tried, haven't you? You've tried to explain yourself, to fix things, to be kinder, more understanding, more patient. And still, they cut you down. Still, they mocked your growth. There comes a time when explaining yourself becomes another form of bleeding. Stop handing swords to those who only want to watch you fall. Release yourself, not with rage, but with resolve. You do not need revenge. You need distance. You need quiet. You need space to become who you were always meant to be, unchained from their shadows. And yes, it hurts. Letting go of someone you once loved feels like carving a piece of your soul. But what good is holding on to poison, simply because it once tasted sweet? What good is loyalty to those who rejoice in your pain? No, demons are not always supernatural. They are the small daily infections, the offhanded insults disguised as jokes, the subtle guilt trips, the backhanded support. But once you see them for what they are, you cannot unsee. You must act. It's time to protect your soul the way you protect your possessions. Guard it with fierce love. Speak to yourself like someone worth saving. Surround yourself not with those who tolerate you, but those who uplift you. Walk away from the familiar if it's slowly killing you. And above all, remember, you don't owe anyone the right to harm you just because they've known you the longest. There is a strange cruelty in the way the world works, a soft lie beneath the surface of every smile. People look at you, speak to you, laugh beside you, and yet something behind their eyes remains unreadable, a flicker too faint to name. You learn slowly that not every smile is a sign of warmth. Some are warnings disguised as affection. A smile can be a knife sheathed in charm. It can be a transaction masked as tenderness. The world doesn't always come at you with sharp claws. Sometimes it waits with soft hands. It waits until you trust it, until you let it in. That's when the betrayal begins, not with thunder, but with a whisper. There are people who watch your rise not with pride, but calculation. They measure how far you've come, not to celebrate, but to scheme. Their compliments are rehearsed. Their presence is strategic. They are not there to love you. They are there to get close enough to destroy you without leaving fingerprints. They mimic support. They echo your dreams. They sit with you in sorrow and pretend to hold you up, but all the while they are learning your weaknesses, taking notes, smiling, always smiling, never revealing the truth, that your pain is their pleasure, your failure their feast. You see, betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those allowed behind the curtain. The smile becomes the most dangerous weapon because it disarms you. You tell your secrets to that smile. You plan your future with it. You break your own boundaries in its name. Have you ever sat with someone, heard them say all the right things, but felt something hollow in the space between their words? Felt a chill that logic can't explain. That's your soul warning you. It's the unspoken truth, that you are not as safe as you seem. They smile when you speak of your goals, but their eyes don't light up. They smile when you succeed, but their applause comes late. They smile when you hurt, and in that subtle curve of their lips, there's an echo of satisfaction. Not everyone who smiles wants your happiness. There's a type of person who studies you not out of interest, but out of intent. They want to know where your armor ends. They want to know how far you'll bend before you break. The smile is their camouflage. Their silence their weapon. They betray you not in rage, but in timing. It is dangerous to assume loyalty simply because someone has stayed. Many stay only to witness the fall. They stay not to help you grow, but to ensure they have front row seats when you collapse. The smile lingers because it knows the illusion must be maintained. They will never strike first. No, they are patient. They wait for your guard to lower. They let you believe they are different. And when you open up, when you expose your most sacred truths, they begin to twist them slowly, quietly, until your strength becomes your shame. That's the brilliance of betrayal. It doesn't shout. It lets you trust. It lets you hope. It wraps itself in familiarity, and when it finally shows its face, you are already too deep, too wounded, too weary to fight. So you learn to listen differently. You start watching for the cracks. You stop assuming that presence equals protection. You stop mistaking politeness for kindness. You begin to understand that the smile isn't always a doorway, it can be a mask. And what a performance they give, these smiling traitors. Always charming, always agreeable, they tell you what you want to hear while planting doubts in others' ears. They defend you in public, but poison you in private. They wear masks better than actors wear roles. Eventually, you'll feel the erosion. You'll feel your joy start to hesitate. You'll wonder why your dreams feel less alive when they're near. You'll feel the pull, not of support, but of sabotage. And when you confront them, they'll smile again, pretending innocence, pretending affection, pretending love. But by then you'll know better. You'll have seen the smile for what it is, a slow, deliberate knife. The most elegant form of destruction, and you'll learn not to hate them, but to outgrow them. There is something deeply haunting about discovering your greatest enemy was born under the same roof as you. The betrayal doesn't feel foreign, it feels ancestral, as if somewhere in the very bones of your lineage something festered in silence, and now it breathes through a familiar face. It starts innocently. A comment here, a correction there. At first you excuse it. After all, blood is thicker than judgment. But with time the pattern emerges. the way your voice is diminished, the way your victories are minimized, the way your worth is questioned with a smile. We grow up thinking family is sanctuary, that no matter the storms outside, the home will be shelter. But some storms live indoors. They whisper through the walls. They wear the perfume of tradition, the costume of kinship. And yet, they are storms just the same. Sometimes you find yourself shrinking not in public, but in the living room. You feel unseen at the dinner table. You feel dismissed in family gatherings. They know your past too well, and they use it to define your future. They never let you change, never let you evolve. They remind you of your mistakes with surgical precision. They compare you with others, siblings, cousins, shadows, and beneath every comment lies a hidden wound, that perhaps they resent your growth, your boldness, your refusal to stay small. The enemy within the family doesn't need to shout. Their power lies in implication, in the quiet undermining of your character, in the way they speak of you when you're not around. They infect the minds of others. They spin narratives, they sabotage through suggestion, and yet the world tells you to honor them, to respect them, to keep showing up, no matter how many times they slice at your spirit. But how long can one bow before the altar of blood while bleeding in silence? You try to please them, you try to earn their approval, you spend years hoping they'll change, hoping they'll see you finally, clearly, but they don't, because to see you succeed would invalidate their own bitterness. The jealousy hides well in family, it dresses up as concern. I just don't want you to get hurt. They say, are you sure you're ready for that? Maybe stick to what you know. And all the while, what they truly mean is, stay small so I don't feel inferior. Sometimes it's not even direct. It's the exclusion, the way they support everyone else, the way they withhold praise, the way they make your success feel like an inconvenience. You become the outsider, even in your own bloodline. And you feel guilty for noticing. You question your sanity. Am I overreacting? Maybe it's just how they are. But your soul knows. It feels the abrasion. It feels the sting. It feels the weight of love that is conditional and support that is strategic. You don't want to cut ties. You don't want to seem ungrateful. But you start to wonder, what price am I paying for this allegiance? How much of my joy must be sacrificed to keep their comfort intact? And so you begin to detach, not in anger, but in survival. You speak less, you share less, you guard your heart, you protect your light. You stop seeking validation from people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And in that silence, in that space, you grow. You discover that family can be chosen, that love does not need to come with wounds, that you are not disloyal for protecting your peace. There's a bitter truth hiding beneath applause. Some hands only clap because others are watching. Some voices only cheer when the spotlight is near. And when the world turns away, so do they, revealing a version of themselves that is far from the one they show in the crowd. It's easy to praise someone when others are listening. It costs nothing to post congratulations online or smile in the hallway. But the real measure of a person lies in what they say about you when there's no audience. That's where the true loyalty, or lack of it, resides. There are people who know how to wear masks so well, they forget what their real face looks like. They lift you up in group settings, but tear you down in hushed tones. They perform affection, they choreograph loyalty, but inside they seethe with resentment, jealousy, or disdain. You begin to notice the inconsistencies. They're loud when others speak well of you, but they fall strangely silent when rumors spread. Their support is situational, their love conditional. They are friends in the daylight, but ghosts at dusk. They fear your shine. They fear that your light might expose their shadows, and so they cheer for you while secretly hoping you fall. They whisper doubts into others' ears, planting seeds of suspicion, painting you with brushes dipped in deception. You may never hear their curses directly, but you'll feel them in the cold stares from people you barely know, in the shifting energy when you enter a room, in the rumors that bear your name but not your voice. That is their work, discreet, destructive, and deliberate. Some demons come dressed in silk and smiles. They say, "I'm proud of you," with lips that later speak poison. They call you friend, but carry envy like a second skin. They shake your hand, all the while hoping your foundation cracks. You'll see them at your milestones, clapping, posing, pretending. They want to be near the success, so they can claim a piece of it. Not because they helped build it, but because they want to claim credit for a life they never understood, a journey they never truly supported. What they do in private is the truth. What they say when the lights go out is the truth. Public praise means nothing when it's rooted in performance. Loyalty behind closed doors is the only loyalty that counts. And sometimes you'll want to confront them. You'll want to scream, "Why pretend?" But the most dangerous kind of betrayal is the subtle one, the one they deny with a straight face, the one they twist into your own imagination. They will never admit it. They will say you're paranoid. They will say you're ungrateful. They will remind you of all the times they showed up. But showing up isn't the same as standing up. Presence is not always protection. They curse you in envy, not in malice. They want what you have, but they'll never admit it. So instead, they try to weaken it. They erode your name with tiny lies, with passive doubts, with just enough distortion to damage without being obvious. They don't want you to fall in front of the world. No, they want you to crumble in private, where no one can trace it back to them. That way they remain the saint, the friend, the one who always had your back. But the truth always rises. Eventually, patterns reveal themselves, and when they do, you'll know who truly stood with you, and who merely stood nearby, waiting to push. Growth is a mirror, and not everyone wants to be seen in it. When you begin to evolve, when you change your habits, shift your mindset, elevate your life, something begins to tremble in those around you. Not everyone celebrates your transformation. For some, it threatens their illusions. You start to notice discomfort in people who once called you family, friends, even confidants. The jokes become sharper, the conversations colder. They say you've changed, but it's not a compliment, it's an accusation. Because in your evolution, they see their stagnation. The masks start to slip. The ones who once praised your ambition now make passive comments about your ego. The ones who used to laugh with you now seem to laugh at you. Growth pulls back the curtain. It exposes who was there for you and who was only there for the version of you that stayed small. The mask is fragile. It cannot survive your truth. When you grow, you become a mirror to others in action. They begin to feel naked around you, not because you judge them, but because your discipline exposes their excuses. You were once their equal in limitation. Misery, after all, loves company, but now you seek more. You speak with purpose. You no longer participate in the pity party. You've outgrown the gossip, the laziness, the denial, and that makes them uncomfortable. They'll call you distant, arrogant, disconnected. But what they truly mean is, you've stopped playing their game. You've stopped laughing at mediocrity. You've stopped needing their approval. You've started choosing yourself. And so the mask slips. The friend who once encouraged you now belittles your efforts. The family member who once praised your talent now questions your priorities. The supporters become critics, not because you failed them, but because you outgrew the role they cast you in. You begin to realize they were never clapping for your light. They were clapping for your familiarity. When you break free from the mold, you break the illusion they depended on. You become a disruption to their comfort zone, and they can't say it outright, so they sabotage quietly. They plant doubts. They remind you of your flaws. They downplay your goals. They do it subtly, behind smiles, behind just joking, behind concern. But the tone has changed. The mask is no longer smiling. Growth is lonely not because people leave you, but because they reveal they were never really with you. They were with your weakness. They were with your dependence. They were with your past, your strength, your clarity, your refusal to settle. That's what sends them running. You feel it most when you succeed. When your life begins to reflect your work, That's when they vanish, or worse, try to minimize it. Must be nice. You got lucky. Don't forget where you came from. As if your ambition is betrayal. But masks can only last so long. They were never built to survive your truth. So you watch them fall, not with anger, but with acceptance. You stop begging people to understand a path they were never meant to walk. And you start walking alone, but this time your eyes are open. You are not lonely, you are awake. The ones who remain, those are the real ones. The rest were lessons, masks that cracked under the pressure of your growth. And you no longer fear the silence, because it's in that silence that you finally hear yourself. From the very beginning they saw it, maybe before you did, that light in your eyes, the clarity in your voice, the way you carried dreams like fire. They saw something different in you, and difference, for many, is terrifying, especially for those who have given up on themselves. You were not ordinary, and ordinary people fear what they don't understand. So they did what fear always does. It tries to control, to suppress, to silence. They mocked your enthusiasm. They labeled your uniqueness as arrogance. They questioned your vision, not because it was flawed, but because it intimidated them. They tried to dim you, not with violence, but with repetition, repeating lies that you're not enough, that your dreams are unrealistic, that your gifts are delusions, that your passion is too loud, too much, too inconvenient. They put limits on your imagination, fences around your heart. They handed you labels and said, "This is who you are, stay here." But the fire inside you never obeyed. It flickered, even when smothered. It burned even when hidden, and the more you shined, the more they attacked. They disguised their envy as advice. They disguised their fear as caution. They told you to be realistic, to be careful, to not aim so high. But none of it was about your safety. It was about their insecurity. They knew, they always knew, you had something rare, something untamed, and rather than rise to meet it, they tried to pull you down to comfort. Misery doesn't just love company. It demands it. Your light reminded them of the darkness they refused to face. But light doesn't ask permission. It doesn't apologize. It reveals. It exposes. And your existence became a mirror they couldn't bear. So they mocked what they feared. They rejected what they couldn't control. They wounded what they didn't understand. They weren't trying to help you when they discouraged you. They were trying to protect their illusion. If you rose, if you flew, it meant they could have too. And that's a truth they were not ready to face. So they tried to extinguish it. Your spirit, your voice, your glow. They tried to make you feel guilty for shining. They called it pride. They called it rebellion. They called it everything but what it truly was, brilliance. But brilliance doesn't fade for long. Even buried under shame, it finds cracks to escape. Even wrapped in silence, it hums with potential. You can't kill what's meant to rise, and one day you rise, maybe slowly, maybe quietly, but you rise, and in your rising you remember all the ways they tried to keep you small, and instead of anger, you feel clarity. Because now you see, it was never about you being too much. It was about them being unwilling to be more. And now, you no longer seek their approval. You no longer need their comfort. You were never meant to dim. You were meant to ignite, and now you burn brighter than ever. In the end, you learn something nobody warns you about. Not all betrayal comes from strangers. Some of the deepest wounds are delivered by the hands that once fed you. Not out of malice, but out of fear. Not because they hate you, but because your growth was a mirror they were too afraid to look into. The demons are not always wearing horns. Sometimes they're smiling beside you in a family photo. Sometimes they're laughing at your jokes while silently hoping you never leave the town you both swore you'd escape. Sometimes they tell you they love you, and maybe, in a twisted way, they do, but love poisoned by envy still kills. The most dangerous demons are the ones who don't know they're demons. The friend who tells you, "Don't forget where you came from," as if your evolution is betrayal. The cousin who shrinks every time you dream out loud. The sibling who competes with your light, not realizing they have their own sun to build. And so you walk through life haunted by echoes. You've changed. Yes, you have. That's the point. That's the cost. Because growth demands that you leave the table where love is only served conditionally, where support is rationed, and where loyalty is weighed on scales built of jealousy. People will swear there in your corner until you begin to outgrow the ring. They'll say they're proud of you until your shadow grows taller than theirs. They'll beg you to be great until your greatness demands they look at the mediocrity they've settled for. You see, family doesn't always mean ally. Blood may connect you genetically, but it does not bind you spiritually, and friendship, that sacred title, is too often handed out like candy at funerals, sweet in the moment, but sickening once you taste the truth. There's a quiet agony in watching the masks fall. It doesn't happen with loud betrayal. It happens in glances, in silence, in absence. It happens when your win is met with their sigh, when your success becomes their discomfort. When your peace makes them restless, you try to drag them with you. You try to share your light, but some people aren't afraid of being in the dark. They're afraid of being seen in it, so they choose to stay there, and when you refuse to join them, they call you selfish. Arrogant, cold, but you are none of those things. You are healing. You are rising. You are protecting what is sacred inside you. You no longer hand your heart to those who chew it slowly while smiling politely. You no longer speak your dreams into ears that twist them into weapons. There is no shame in cutting ties with people who sabotage your soul. There is no guilt in walking alone if the path behind you is lined with landmines dressed as love. Your peace is not up for compromise. Your destiny is not a group project. You begin to understand something deeper, something primal. Not everyone is meant to go with you. Some people were chapters, not the whole story. Lessons, not lifelines. Some were mirrors to show you what you must never become. And when the last mask falls, when the last supporter shows their true colors, you don't mourn, you observe, you reflect. And then you move forward, not with rage, but with reverence for your own survival. You kept your light alive in a house full of shadows. You no longer wait for apologies from those who enjoyed the damage. You no longer water deserts, hoping they become gardens. You no longer bleed in the name of loyalty to people who'd never have done the same for you. You rise, not for revenge, not to prove a point, but because rising is what the soul does when it remembers who it truly is. So let them whisper, let them misunderstand, let them twist your name in rooms you'll never enter again. That is no longer your concern. You have a life to build, a spirit to honor, and demons, no matter how familiar, cannot